Welcome to the Leadership Kit.
I've been fortunate enough to attend several trainings and conferences for church planters. And one of the things that I learned along the way that really stuck with me is they suggested that when you're in your early lead team recruiting phases and you have lead team meetings, you should pull your people together and hold a brainstorming session where everyone gets to offer ideas of what you could call the church. Like this is who we are, this is what we're going to do in our community, this is the vision for the church, but what should we name it? It's your number one job in this brainstorming session to not give your opinion.
Don't say what you think it should be called.
And here's the reason. Let's say at the top of your list, one of the names is My Church, and you want to call it My Church. At this brainstorming session, if you were to say, hey, I think I want to call it My Church, but I want to hear what you guys have to say. And you write down the list of all these names that people suggest and recommend. They think, oh, I love the name Access, or I love the name Victory, or I love the name Echo, or I love the name whatever church name they came up with or stole from somebody down the street who they really like.
Yeah.
And you say, okay, thanks guys. Next time when we meet, I'm going to let you know what we're going to call the church. And you come back and you say, all right, I looked at everything. We're going to call it My Church. The thing that you're communicating at that point in time is that you really didn't care what they had to say, and that you asking for their opinions was just lip service. Even if that's not where your heart was, even if you went back and you prayed about it and you thought, man, they all had great ideas, but I really feel like the name that I came up with is the best name that defines us and what our vision is, and that's the one I'm going with. They're not going to see it that way. They're going to see it as, why'd you even waste our time asking us? Today we're talking about buy-in. And one of the best things you can do to help the people in your organization have buy-in is to give them control. Make sure their opinions are heard. Make sure they have say in the organization. You want them to treat your organization as if they are owners and not just employees, not something they just do on the weekends, but something that they helped build, and you want them to have pride and take ownership in it.
We know that you can't build a church by yourself, and we don't want your people to think you're trying to build a church by yourself. What's important is for your people to realize that they're a part of this process. In order for those people to feel free to invest more into it, in order for those people to realize that they have something to offer to build that organization, to build that church, to build that team of people, in order to help your people realize that they've got something that they're putting into this that's valuable and it's worth investing in, they've got to have some buy-in. They've got to have some equity, something at stake, something that's actually theirs that they can look to and say, like, I helped contribute to this.
Yeah, and this applies to more than just planting a church. This applies to every level of any type of organization. If you want people to have buy-in, to really care and be personally invested and to work for something as if it's their own, but you need to give them that sense of ownership and let them play a role in the success of the company, not just be someone who you paid to be there.
It's as leaders, we often think, especially when we get elevated to a place of leadership, it's one thing when you're starting something from scratch, and then whenever somebody else notices your worth and they elevate you, they give you a promotion or whatever, we think once we get that new position, it's up to us to say a little more. It's up to us to like bring better ideas to the table. It's up to us but that's not true. What's up to us is to find better ideas. It's up to you as a leader to find the people that have the great ideas and get your own ego out of the way so that you can let that person's great idea shine. That means keeping your mouth shut sometimes when you think you've got the best idea. That means letting other people talk and listening way more than you've ever listened before, and sometimes speaking way less than you've ever spoken before.
Yeah, you don't have to have the best idea. You just have to recognize the best
Mm-hmm.
idea. I'm in the process right now of trying to recruit someone to my team who I believe has the potential to be a high capacity A leader.
Mm-hmm.
And in talking with this person about what the role might look like, one of their concerns was, are they going to be given the leeway to do the things that they feel need to be done to succeed at the job that I've given them? I think any A leader, any high capacity person, they're going to be thinking about those kinds of things. And if you're not willing to give up control and to let them do what needs to be done to succeed, then they're not going to join your team and they're not going to help you get to the next level. And you're not going to get A leaders. If you happen to stumble on one, you're going to lose them pretty quickly.
We say it all the time, and we're going to keep saying it, that you can either have control or you can have growth, and you cannot have both. There's also a big gap between being able to afford like the best people, and then actually getting them on your team. Let me tell you something about the best people. A good paycheck does go a long way to recruit great people, but there are things you can give them that are not a paycheck that can make them want to be a part of your team. It's important to pay them well, to pay them what they're worth. But when you want to make the job extra valuable to them, the things you can do to keep and recruit and find these incredible people are things like giving them autonomy. Here's a great example is like in your own family, whenever you look into the back seat and you ask your daughter, right, like, where do you want to go to dinner tonight? And you're like, earlier she might have been upset that we're leaving the house or we're not going to her friend's house or we're not whatever, but then she's like I'm going with mom and dad on date night again. But now
To
she's
Home
like
Depot.
to home, or I'm going with dad. Oh my gosh, so many times we sat at Home Depot with dad just waiting, and when he'd get in the car and he'd turn back and be like, boys, where do you guys want to eat? All of a sudden, it was no longer a boring trip to Home Depot. This is an amazing trip to McDonald's where we can play in the play place, which we
That's
rarely
right.
got to do growing up.
Yeah, I mean, at that moment, it's like instead of now we're on a trip with dad doing what he wants to do, all of a sudden, like we were a family because we had say in what we do. We were personally invested in that trip. And now that trip was no longer a drag. And so, the best people, they're way more important things than just a paycheck. A lot of times, what's more important than even a paycheck is for them being free to do the things that make them feel fulfillment, the things that they feel like they find purpose in. And if they don't have the freedom to make decisions and to do what they think is best in a situation, then you're missing out on a big part of the value they bring to your organization.
Right. One of the things that got so much buy-in from me at a church that I worked at, I loved working at this place. I was so loyal to it because like shortly after I got there, they realized that my family is incredibly important to me. And my pastor made it a point to have a relationship with my dad and to have a relationship with my brother, who were halfway across the country, who weren't in the same town. It was inconvenient, but they made it a point to reach out to them and they got to be really close. And I mean, it was incredible. I felt like these people are willing to invest in what's most important to me, and they got buy-in from me. So they listened to some of my ideas that worked out great, but then also they identified something that was really important to me, and then they invested in it on my behalf.
So if you don't get anything else from this video, 2 great ways that you can help your people to have buy-in into your organization. Number 1, give them the room to do the things that they think need to be done. Give them autonomy, give them freedom. Let their opinions actually count and them have a voice, and them actually give them some ownership of the company. And number 2, invest in the things that are important to them. If you invest in them and the things that are important to them, then they're going to want to invest into you in return, because that relationship has meaning and value for them, and it has meaning and value for the things that they care about. So they want to grow that and cultivate that. It will be mutually beneficial.
Thank you guys for liking, commenting, and subscribing.
We'll see you next week on TOK.